All right, so are you ready to take a deep dive into Atomic Habits?
Absolutely. Let's get right into it.
This book by James Clear. It's everywhere these days.
It really is. It's kind of taken the world by storm.
So much hype around it,
Yeah.
but is it worth it? Like, what's the big deal?
Yeah. Is it just another self-help fad?
Exactly. So
Uh,
that's kind of what we're here to figure out today.
to separate the fluff from the truly valuable stuff.
Right, so we can give you guys some actionable stuff,
Yeah. The stuff that you can actually use.
Not just like, well, that's a nice idea,
Like,
but
how do we put this into practice?
exactly. So James Clear's book, it focuses on the idea that tiny changes
Yeah. Atomic habit.
can lead to remarkable results,
There.
right? But that sounds great in theory, but
How does that actually work?
yeah. And does it actually work?
Right. And I think one of the coolest things Clear does in the book is he starts with his own story.
Yeah, it kind of walks the walk, right?
Exactly. So he was a high school athlete, super promising.
Baseball player, right?
Yeah, baseball player. And then he had this horrific accident.
I mean, it wasn't just like a broken leg or something. This was like,
Life-changing stuff.
yeah, like facial fractures and brain injury and
Yeah, double vision. He had to relearn how to walk.
like it was a long road to recovery.
It would have been so easy to just give up hope, you know?
To just be like, well, that's it for me.
My life's over.
Yeah. But he really focused on those small incremental improvements.
Yeah, he talks about those tiny gains.
And it's crazy how much he was able to achieve.
It's like defying all odds.
Yeah, he went on to graduate with honors and,
Mm.
became a successful entrepreneur and author.
And it really highlights this point that even when faced with huge obstacles,
Like seemingly insurmountable challenges.
small, consistent effort can lead to extraordinary results.
So that's inspiring. But is there like a scientific basis for this approach?
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's not just a feel-good story.
Yeah.
Clear draws on a lot of research in psychology and neuroscience.
Okay, cool. So it's not just like motivational fluff.
No. There's real science behind it.
Okay, so tell me more about that. What does the science say?
One of the key concepts he talks about is lagging measures,
Lagging measures, okay?
which basically means that the results of our efforts are often delayed.
So like you don't see the results right away,
Exactly. You might be working really hard at the gym.
but you're not going to have a six-pack after one workout.
Exactly. It takes time for those results to show up.
So how do we stay motivated when we don't see those immediate results?
That's where Clear's argument against just focusing on goals comes in.
Okay, so instead of fixating on the end goal,
He suggests shifting our focus to the systems that drive those results.
so it's not about, I want to lose 20 pounds.
It's about, I'm going to cook healthy meals 4 nights a week.
So it's more about building those consistent habits,
Exactly. It's about the process, not just the outcome.
which actually sounds a lot more sustainable, right?
It is. You're not just chasing a fleeting goal.
Yeah, you're building a lifestyle.
Exactly. And as Clear puts it, you get what you repeat.
I like that it's simple but powerful.
It is. And it really highlights the importance of habits.
So how do we actually go about forming these habits, these atomic habits?
Well, Clear breaks down habit formation into 4 stages: cue, craving response, and reward.
Okay, so it's like a 4-step process.
It's like a loop, a feedback loop that reinforces behavior.
Okay, so walk me through this habit loop.
Huh?
Let's say I want to start meditating every morning.
Okay, perfect example. So the first stage is the cue.
The cue, what's it?
It's the trigger that initiates the habit.
So, like, what would be the cue for meditating?
It could be something as simple as setting your alarm for a specific time each morning.
Okay, so the sound of the alarm is the cue.
Exactly. Or maybe placing your meditation cushion in a visible spot.
Ah, so it's like a visual reminder.
Precisely, you're making the cue obvious.
Okay, so the cue triggers the habit, then what?
Then comes the craving,
The craving. Okay.
which is the motivation to perform the habit.
So in this case, the craving would be...
Maybe the desire to feel calmer and more focused throughout the day.
Ah, so the craving is like the why behind the habit.
Exactly. It's the emotional or psychological fuel that drives the behavior.
Okay, so we have the cue, the craving, then what?
Then comes the response, which is the actual action you take.
So in our meditation example, the response would
When
be,
sitting down on your cushion and meditating.
even if it's just for a few minutes at first.
Exactly. Starting small is key.
Okay, and then the final stage.
The reward.
So the reward for meditating would be,
That feeling of calm and focus you were craving.
so you get the reward, and then that makes you want to do it again.
Exactly. The reward reinforces the entire loop.
Your brain learns that meditation leads to a positive feeling,
And that makes it more likely that you'll repeat the habit.
so it becomes a virtuous cycle.
Exactly. The more you repeat the loop, the stronger the habit becomes.
I like that it's like positive reinforcement for your brain.
It is. You're training your brain to associate the habit with a reward.
So If we want to build new habits, we need to break down our actions into these 4 stages.
Precisely and clear even suggests creating a habit scorecard to become more aware of our existing habits.
A habit scorecard. What's that?
It's a simple but powerful exercise
Oh, yeah.
where you list out your daily habits and label each one as good, bad, or neutral.
So it's like a self-assessment of my current habits.
Exactly. You're bringing those unconscious behaviors to light.
That's interesting. I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah, it's about becoming aware of what's already running on autopilot.
Okay, so I'm actually curious to try this myself.
I highly recommend it. It's a real eye-opener.
So once we've identified our habits using this scorecard, then what?
Well, Clearer lays out 4 laws of behavior change that help make good habits easier and bad habits harder.
4 laws?
Oh.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more about those.
But before we dive into those, maybe you have a question about the habits scorecard.
Actually, yeah, I do. I'm curious about this habit scorecard. Like, how detailed does it need to be?
Right, good question. It doesn't need to be an exhaustive minute-by-minute breakdown of your day. Think of it as highlighting the key actions that shape your routine.
Okay, so instead of listing brush teeth, shower, make coffee, I could just say morning routine.
Exactly. The goal is to get a clear overview, not get bogged down in minutia.
Got it. So once we've mapped out our habit scorecard and identified the areas we want to change.
Then we can start applying those 4 laws of behavior change.
Okay, perfect. Let's dive into those laws and see how we can put them into practice.
Great. So the first law is all about making the cue obvious. It's about bringing those triggers for good habits front and center.
Okay, so it's like laying out a welcome mat for those good habits.
Exactly. And Clear has some really practical tips for making cues more obvious.
Like what kind of tips?
Well, we talked about placing a book where you'll see it if you want to read more.
Right, or prepping your workout clothes the night before.
Exactly. It's about consciously designing your environment to make the right choices easier.
So it's not just about willpower. It's about setting ourselves up for success.
Precisely. It's about making those good habits the path of least resistance.
Okay, so making the cue obvious. That's the first law. What's the second law?
The second law is all about making it attractive.
Making it attractive. So making those good habits more appealing.
Exactly. We want to make those habits something we actually want to do.
Okay, so how do we do that?
Well, remember that hand washing story we talked about earlier in Pakistan?
Yeah, where they made hand washing a more luxurious experience.
Exactly. It wasn't just about hygiene, it was about making it enjoyable.
And it worked.
It did. Hand washing rates went up significantly.
So it's about finding ways to make those good habits more rewarding.
Precisely. Clear talks about temptation bundling, which is a really cool strategy.
Temptation bundling. Yeah, okay. What's that?
It's about pairing an action you want to do with an action you need to do.
So, like, what would be an example of that?
Let's say you love listening to podcasts, but you struggle to make time for exercise.
Okay, I can relate to that.
So you only allow yourself to listen to your favorite podcasts while you're exercising.
Oh, I like that. It's like a win-win.
You're making the activity you need to do more enjoyable.
And you're actually looking forward to it.
Exactly. You're tapping into that desire for instant gratification.
Okay, that's brilliant. So
Yeah.
making it obvious, making it attractive. What's the third law?
The third law is all about making it easy.
Okay, making it easy. This seems pretty straightforward, but...
It's more nuanced than you might think.
Okay, I'm listening.
It's about minimizing friction in your habits.
Friction. Okay.
Even small obstacles can derail our best intentions.
Like what kind of obstacles?
Clear gives this example of Japanese manufacturers who redesigned their workspaces to eliminate unnecessary movements.
So like streamlining their workflow.
Exactly, and it led to increased efficiency and reduced errors.
So it's like removing those little speed bumps that slow us down.
Precisely, and that's where Clear's 2-minute rule comes in.
2-minute rule. Okay, tell me more about that.
It states that when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do.
So instead of trying to run a marathon, I might just focus on putting on my running shoes.
Exactly, you're breaking down the habit into its simplest form.
So it's about making the initial step so easy that you can't say no.
Precisely, you're removing any excuse for not getting started.
That's actually really smart. It's like tricking your brain into taking action.
It is, and once you've taken that first step, it's much easier to keep going.
Okay, so making it obvious, making it attractive, making it easy. What's the fourth law?
The fourth law is all about making it satisfying.
Making it satisfying. So we want those good habits to feel good.
Exactly. Our brains are wired to prioritize immediate rewards.
Right, so it's not just about the long-term benefits.
We need to find ways to make those good habits feel good now.
So how do we do that?
One really effective strategy is habit tracking.
Habit track. Okay, tell me more about that.
It's about keeping track of your progress, which can provide a sense of accomplishment.
So like ticking off boxes on a habit tracker.
Exactly. It makes your progress tangible and visible.
I could see how that would be motivating.
It is. It's like giving yourself a pat on the back for each small win.
Okay, so making it obvious, making it attractive, making it easy, and making it satisfying. Those are the 4 laws of behavior change.
Exactly. Those are the 4 keys to building better habits.
This is all super helpful. I'm already starting to think about how I can apply this to my own life.
That's great to hear. Remember, it's all about starting small and building momentum.
One step at a time.
Exactly. You don't have to change everything overnight.
Just focus on those tiny improvements and let them compound over time.
And pretty soon you'll be amazed at how far you've come.
Okay, so we've talked about those 4 laws of behavior change, but I want to circle back to something you said earlier about the role of environment.
Ah, yes. Our surroundings play a huge role in shaping our behavior.
Right. It's not just about our internal motivation.
It's also about creating an environment that supports our desired habits.
So give me an example of how environment can influence our habits.
Well, Clear has this fascinating story about hand washing in Pakistan.
Okay, hand washing in Pakistan. Tell me more.
So there was this public health project in Karachi where diarrhea was a major problem.
Okay.
Hand washing was the obvious solution, but people just weren't doing it consistently.
So what was the problem?
Well, instead of lecturing people about the importance of hand washing,
Right.
they focused on making it more appealing.
Okay, how did they do that?
They partnered with Procter & Gamble to provide Safeguard soap, which was a premium brand in Pakistan at the time.
So they made hand washing a luxury experience.
Exactly, and it worked.
Seriously?
Yeah, diarrhea rates plummeted and hand washing habits actually stuck.
That's amazing. So it's not just about education, it's about making the desired behavior more attractive.
Precisely, we're more likely to do things that feel good and rewarding.
This is making me realize that I need to pay more attention to my environment.
Absolutely. Our surroundings can either support us or sabotage us.
So if I want to read more, I should make sure I have books readily available.
Exactly, on your bedside table, in your bag, wherever you're most likely to pick one up.
And if I'm trying to cut back on screen time, maybe I should move my TV out of the bedroom.
Precisely, or keep your phone in a drawer when you're working.
Okay, so it's about consciously designing my environment to make the right choices easier.
Exactly, you're setting yourself up for success.
This is all making so much sense. Now I'm starting to see the bigger picture.
It's about creating a system that works for you, not against you.
And it's about understanding the psychology behind our habits.
Exactly. Once we understand how our brains work,
We can start to leverage those insights to our advantage.
and create lasting, positive change in our lives.
This is all so fascinating. I can't wait to dive deeper into the rest of the book.
Me too. There's so much more to explore.
So stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive into atomic habits, where we'll continue to unpack the science and strategies for building better habits.
We'll be right back. So we left off talking about how our environment can really make or break our habits.
Yeah, it's not just about willpower.
Right. It's about setting ourselves up for success.
Okay, so let's get back to those 4 laws of behavior change you mentioned.
Absolutely. So we've covered the first 2, making it obvious and making it attractive.
Right. Those are key for getting started.
But what about keeping those habits going?
Yeah. How do we make sure those good habits stick?
That's where the 3rd law comes in, making it easy.
Okay, making it easy. So it's not just about motivation.
Right. It's about reducing friction.
Okay.
Like even those tiny little obstacles that can derail our best intentions.
Oh, I know what you mean. Like when I plan to go for a run, but then I can't find my headphones.
Exactly. Or when you want to cook a healthy meal, but all you have are takeout menus.
Yeah, those little things can really throw you off.
They can, and that's why it's so important to make those good habits as easy as possible.
So what are some tips for making habits easier?
Well, one of my favorite strategies is Clear's 2-minute rule.
The 2-minute rule. Okay, remind me what that is.
It's basically the idea that when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do.
So instead of saying I'm going to write for an hour,
You might say, I'm going to write for 2 minutes.
okay, so it's about breaking down those habits into their smallest possible steps.
Exactly. You're lowering the barrier to entry
So it's less intimidating.
and more likely that you'll actually do it.
I like that it's about building momentum.
Precisely. You're creating a win, even if it's a small one.
And those small wins can really add up over time.
They do. They create a sense of accomplishment and keep you moving forward.
Okay, so making it easy, that's the 3rd law. What's the 4th?
The 4th law is all about making it satisfying.
Making it satisfying. Okay, so it's not just about being easy.
It's also about making those good habits feel good.
Right. Our brains are wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain.
Exactly. So we want to associate those good habits with positive feelings.
Okay, so how do we make those habits more satisfying?
Well, one of the best ways is through habit tracking.
Habit tracking. I've heard of that, but I've never really tried it.
It can be really powerful.
How so?
Well, it makes your progress visible, which can be really motivating.
So like ticking off boxes on a calendar or something.
Exactly. It's a visual reminder of how far you've come.
I can see how that would be encouraging.
It is. It's like giving yourself a little reward for each successful day.
And it also helps you stay accountable, right?
Absolutely. If you know you're going to be tracking your progress,
You're less likely to skip a day.
precisely, you don't want to break that streak.
Yeah, that makes sense. So habit tracking can be a really helpful tool.
It can. It's a great way to make those good habits stick.
Okay, so we've covered all 4 laws of behavior change.
Making it obvious, making it attractive, making it easy, and making it satisfying.
This is all really helpful, but I'm curious about something.
What's that?
Claire talks about this idea of identity-based habits. What exactly does he mean by that?
Ah, that's a really important concept. It's about shifting our focus from what we do to who we are.
Okay, so it's not just about changing our actions, it's about changing our beliefs about ourselves.
Exactly. It's about aligning our habits with our desired identity.
So if I want to be a writer,
I need to start acting like a writer.
so writing every day, even if it's just for a few minutes.
Precisely. It's about embodying that identity.
So it's not just about I want to write a book, it's about I am a writer.
Exactly. You're shifting your self-perception.
And that makes it more likely that you'll stick with the habits that support that identity.
It does. It's like you're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy.
I like that it's about becoming the person you want to be.
Exactly. And your habits are the building blocks of that identity.
So it's not just about what we do, it's about who we are.
And our habits reflect that.
This is all so fascinating. I'm starting to see how these seemingly small changes can really add up to something significant.
They can transform our lives.
And it's not just about achieving our goals, it's about becoming the best versions of ourselves.
Precisely. It's about living a life that's aligned with our values and aspirations.
This is all so inspiring. I'm feeling really motivated to start putting these principles into practice.
That's great to hear. Remember, it's all about starting small and building momentum.
One step at a time.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment.
Find what works for you.
And keep those good habits rolling.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into atomic habits, but I know there's still more to explore.
There is. We've just scratched the surface.
So let's transition smoothly into the final part, where we can wrap up the remaining points from Atomic Habits.
I'm ready when you are.
So we've covered a ton of ground already. Those 4 laws, the habits scorecard, the power of environment.
It's a lot to take in.
It is, but it's all really practical advice, right? Like things we can actually implement.
Absolutely. Clear doesn't just tell you what to do, he explains how to do it.
Yeah, he gives you those step-by-step strategies.
And he backs it all up with research and examples.
It's not just like motivational fluff,
No, it's evidence-based.
which I appreciate because I'm always a little skeptical of self-help books.
I get it. There's a lot of stuff out there that's not very helpful.
Yeah, but this book feels different,
It does. It feels more grounded, more practical.
and it's really resonating with people.
It is. It's become a phenomenon for a reason.
So let's talk about one of those reasons. Claire's emphasis on the connection between habits and identity.
Ah, yes. Identity-based habits.
That's the idea that our habits shape our identity and our identity shapes our habits, right?
It's a two-way street.
So it's like a feedback loop.
It is the more we act in alignment with a certain identity.
The more that identity becomes ingrained in our sense of self.
And that, in turn, makes us more likely to continue those actions.
So if I see myself as a healthy person,
You're more likely to make healthy choices.
and those choices reinforce your identity as a healthy person.
Precisely. It's a virtuous cycle.
But how do we actually shift our identity? I mean, that feels like a pretty deep-rooted thing.
It is, but it's not impossible.
Because how do we do it?
It starts with making a conscious decision about who you want to be.
So like setting an intention.
Exactly. And then it's about taking small, consistent actions that support that identity.
So if you want to be a writer,
You write every day.
even if it's just for a few minutes,
Precisely. It's about showing up consistently.
and proving to yourself that you are that person,
Exactly. It's about embodying the identity.
not just talking about it.
Actions speak louder than words.
This is really making me think about my own habits and how they reflect my current identity.
It's a powerful exercise to do.
To really examine your habits and ask yourself,
What do these habits say about me?
yeah, and am I living in alignment with who I want to be?
If not, it might be time to make some changes.
And Clear provides the tools and strategies to do just that.
He gives us a roadmap for building better habits and creating a better life.
This has been an incredible deep dive into atomic habits.
I agree. It's been a really thought-provoking conversation.
We've covered so much ground today, from tiny gains to identity-based habits, the power of environment, and the importance of systems over goals.
But ultimately, it all comes down to this small changes, remarkable results.
Exactly. And it's a message that's resonating with people all over the world.
It is. Atomic Habits has become a global phenomenon.
And for good reason. It's a book that has the power to transform lives.
I believe it does too.
So thank you so much for joining us on this exploration of atomic habits.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you found it as valuable as we have, and that you're feeling inspired to start building those atomic habits in your own life.
Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about being just a little bit better each day.
One step at a time.
Exactly.
Until next time, keep those good habits rolling.
And we'll see you on the next deep dive.